I didn't realize that I was seeing this right during a head massage at Dustin's session. Dustin, my son, is a hair and cut stylist. And although I was very excited that it happened right in front of him in his chair, it was nice. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. When Dustin was 10, he visited my mother. His grandma by affection, we all called her that, on Sunday afternoons and insisted on combing out her silver bob. He lined up clips like toy soldiers and practiced French braids on anything that would hold still. Doll heads, a mop, my own hair whenever I surrendered. He'd tilt his face to the mirror and shave zigzags into his buzz cut, then sigh happily as if he'd carved wings from his scalp. Neighbors clucked. I laughed and bought better clippers. Beauty has always been craft, and I know craft when I see it. In our family I was the unofficial stylist, the one who could turn a box dye into a decent chestnut gloss and coax a cowlick into obedience. He saw that earliest. He watched my hands and wanted hands like mine. By 19, Dustin had launched a barbershop that smelled like cedar and mint, with a corner for women's cuts and finishes because he couldn't stop there. He installed ring lights before I knew what a ring light was and filmed everything. Fades, blowouts, foils that glinted like armor. He talked about hair the way some people talk about music. Structure, rhythm, surprise. Amanda, his friend from high school with cheekbones you could rest a comb on, was a frequent canvas. He'd come over and tell me how he'd built her fringe to skim the lashes, how he'd carved out a shag that moved when she laughed. My friends booked with him. Then their friends. Then the stylish women in town who always seemed to sniff out the next good thing. Dustin was the next good thing. Meanwhile, I was 45 and single, divorced a decade now, the kind of woman with a freshly steamed blouse and a drawer of mismatched mugs. I was a sales manager with a face lit by monitors, good at numbers, less good at pretending the numbers made me happy. I went on dates because I didn't know how not to, because my friends sent screenshots and said try this one, he's normal. Normal became a sweater that fit me poorly. Tenderness, when it visited, felt like a guest who never took off his shoes. Come work with me, Dustin said one night after close, sweeping hair into a desert. You taught me that hair is language. I can't be a one-man dictionary anymore. I reminded him I had a job. He reminded me I had a life. He told me he needed a finisher, a colorist, a second brain at the edge of every decision. We can shoot content together. TikTok loves a duo. You're modern and you're stylish and you make people feel seen. And you hate spreadsheets. He wasn't wrong. When the salon hit a wait list 3 weeks deep, I said yes. We turned the back office into a color kitchen and hung plants from the ceiling that brushed my shoulders when I walked by. We're going to be fun, he said, hauling in a vintage dryer chair the color of plums. Fun and precise. The rhythm took practice. I learned that he likes to consult standing, while I prefer the quiet of a seated mirror. He learned that I prep foils like origami and label bowls like a librarian, that my fingers know the pressure points behind an ear and at the base of the skull. Between clients we joked, danced into frame, filmed tiny tutorials with captions that made strangers write, "I feel calmer just watching you." In those moments, the salon felt like a heartbeat we both synchronized to. He showed me a head massage technique he'd seen on TikTok. 3 minutes, he said, cupping the air above the nape of my neck. Pressure here, then here. Triggers relaxation like a switch. If it's as good as people say, we should add it as a service. On me. Tease. I'm your control group. Gold standard, he grinned. You're honest. That's why I want you. I hesitated for reasons I didn't know how to explain. My earlobes are traitors. Always have been. A child's joke made me a woman who blushes at earrings. A fingertip tracing the rim of my ear can turn my breath unreliable. I'm a walking diagram of soft spots. It is one thing for tenderness to visit from a safe distance. It is another to offer it a chair and a playlist. Not today, I said. He didn't press. Not that day. Customers loved the treatment when he tried it on them. I watched Amanda unspool into the chair with an "oh my god" that pulled every vowel out like taffy. It's unbelievable, she said, dazed, and I felt something complicated bloom behind my ribs. Not jealousy. A cousin of it. Wanting and not wanting, curiosity in a dress too short for decency. He kept asking, light as a feather. Today. 2 minutes. If it's good, I'll put it on the menu. I'm not sure. What's the matter? How do you say I am a map of edges and you will find them? How do you draw a boundary when your hands, for years, have taught a boy to hold a pair of shears like a violin bow? One evening we had closed the books early. Rain stitched the windows. The floor was clean. The sign on the door flipped to closed like a sealed envelope. Okay, I said. Let's try. But don't touch my ears. My voice sounded stern even to me, and he corrected it with a smile. Deal, sir. He reclined the chair until the ceiling became a field of soft white tiles. He set jazz low medium blue trumpet. He wheeled his stool behind me and I closed my eyes, every part of me preparing to be very brave and very cowardly at once. From the first touch my mouth opened without permission, as if my body had been waiting by a door and it swung inward without knocking. He found the ridge at the base of my skull, pressed into the promise there, and warmth rippled down my spine. I made myself silent. This silence is a skill. Years of perfecting a smile that says, I am fine, thank you, this is lovely. I was his mentor. He was my partner. He was also 24 and handsome in the unstudied way of people who forget someone is watching. Somewhere in the music his hands drifted, by accident or design, toward my ears. His thumbs grazed the soft, tender lobes and heat arrowed through me so quick I almost laughed from shock. Dustin, I said softly. You can't. Sorry, he murmured, more breath than word, and then, the folly of a half-second. His fingers shaped a careful circle around the edge of my ear as if sculpting attention. The sound that escaped me was treacherously small, a little frayed inhalation. I sat up too quickly. I can't do this, I said, voice thready. I didn't finish, he said, puzzled and earnest. I need to lock up. We should go home. Dinner. He watched me, comprehension gathering like a tide. Are you sure you don't want me to finish? Yes. Well, maybe another time. Fumbled. I don't love the massage, I added, a lie that carried the perfume of obviousness. He gave me a look that wasn't unkind. Your lips told me a different story. Then he shook his head, lightening the moment. Okay. Let's go. We drove with the music up, rain nervous and neon from the streetlights. I stared at my hands, at the shallow lines that looked like riverbeds in drought. Tenderness had pulled a chair to my table. I hadn't decided whether to serve it tea or ask it to leave. After that night he asked again. Not pushing, just offering. I learned the shape of no as a word that bent. Yes, another time, not long. He became more confident in that way he has. Hands smarter, pressure more precise. He added the neck, the slope from ear to collarbone, the borderlands of my collar where a necklace would rest if I ever remembered to put one on. Every time I tried to be only professional. Every time my body remembered it had more languages than efficiency. One evening, when the sign went to closed and rain did not trouble the windows, he rested his hands on my shoulders before the massage began, just the deliberate warmth of a person saying, here, I am here. It felt like an embrace that never tightened. I did not move away. There were hugs sometimes at the end of long days. Not unusual. The sort that say we did well and tomorrow we'll do better. But on certain nights I felt the heave of something else beneath the surface. A rhythm neither of us wanted to name, because naming is a kind of invitation, and invitations must be honored. I wondered who I was becoming in the reflected light of his attention. A woman who didn't need a man, discovering she wanted being wanted. A mentor, learning the dangerous delight of being seen not as a map of instruction but as a country of mystery. Hair fell each day and grew each day. This is how summer turned the corner into fall. We learned the choreography of crowded Saturdays. He floated between stations like a hummingbird. I moved like a tide. Amanda brought us coffee and let us experiment with a copper gloss that made her freckles constellations. We filmed a reel about face shape and fringe. It did 100,000 views in an afternoon, then 300,000, then strangers wrote to ask if we took out-of-towners. Dustin made a sign that said, "We travel through hair. Bring your head and a story." He liked to tell my story more than I did. "Susie did her whole family's hair growing up," he'd say on camera. "She taught me everything, including how to hold still when life wants to shake you." The first time he said that, my throat fluttered. On playback, I looked like someone listening to rain, lit from the inside by a memory you wish would leave and hope will stay. Comments. The way he looks at her. The respect. My heart can't handle this duo. Respect is real. So is the question of how respect can lean into something sweeter without falling. I folded that question and hid it under everything else. He pitched a fall campaign. Fresh starts. New bangs, new bobs, new beginnings. We built mood boards and plotted a week of content with slow-motion hair flips and text overlays about shedding old stories. We decided to add the head massage as an optional add-on called the Reset, for when your head is loud and your hair wants quiet, as our caption read. We tested it thoroughly. On clients, on Amanda, on each other in the way that looks like work and isn't entirely. "Don't touch my ears," I reminded him, a whisper now instead of a rule. He obeyed, and when his fingers skated near the line, a spark flashed like a match that refused to catch. The night I understood that I was in trouble came during a late close when the city was a quiet hallway outside our glass front. He rolled the stool behind my chair. Closed my eyes. He cradled the back of my head in both hands the way you carry a bowl you love. The music was an old piano piece that always makes me think of kitchens after midnight. Somewhere between the second and third minute, he paused, his hand still framing me, not touching, air between fingers and skin. Pause said I could. It also said I won't. I didn't move. I let him not touch me. For the first time I realized how much intimacy lives in restraint. When he finished, I kept my eyes closed longer than necessary. He didn't speak. Finally I stood and the room tilted. He steadied me out of habit, palms light on my upper arms. We stood too close, and the part of me that keeps score took notes. On social, a reel of us laughing in the back room went mildly viral. Comments multiplied. "The chemistry. Are they?" We didn't answer. Next day Dustin leaned against the station mirror and watched my reflection instead of me. "I'm proud of you," he said, simple as a glass of water. Turned. We were not touching. I felt like we were holding hands. "Don't," I said softly, and the word trembled. "Don't what?" he asked, not moving. "Don't look at me like every boundary I set is a door you already know how to unlock." He swallowed. "I don't want to unlock anything you haven't handed me a key to." "Good," I said, and my mouth betrayed me by wishing he would keep talking. He didn't. He reached out and tucked a stray curl behind my ear, but stopped an inch away and let the curl fall back. It was nothing. It was everything. Fall taught us to layer. Scarves, cardigans, guarded statements. On a Thursday that smelled like rain and cinnamon, from the cafe next door, Amanda sidled into the break room and said, "Do you two know you're a poem?" I was measuring developer and nearly added too much. "I'm a memo," I said. "He's a caption." "You're a poem," she insisted, stretching the O like a cat, then laughed at my face and softened. "I mean respect, Susie. People feel it. Feel it. The way he listens. The way you steady. It's rare." "Rare doesn't mean wise," I said. "No," she agreed. "But rare often means true." Midday, a woman about my age sat and said, "My ex shaved off my hair 3 years ago." She said it like confession and challenge. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. I cut her a pixie with power in it. Dustin's hands did the reset, and I watched the tension leave her jaw in increments. When we showed her the mirror, she flinched and then lifted her chin. She left a 20 in our jar and a note. "You reminded me I have a head. Thank you." After the last client, with cocoa gone and hair snowed over the mat, We collapsed on the floor like campers after a long hike. Dustin stretched out and yawned. I lay on my side, pillowing my head on my arm, because the floor was cold and my body was not. "Come here," he said casually, like we were siblings in a family movie, and then immediately, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean." "I know," I said, which might have been the truest thing I said all month. He offered his arm. I shook my head, then changed my mind and scooted close enough that our shoulders touched. We lay like that for a minute that might have been an hour in another life. His heat reached me like a hand through a door. "Thank you," he said into the air above us. "For what?" "For being yourself out loud." I had a version of my life that was just me and a chair. You added, "weather." "I'm not weather," I said. "I'm a barometer." "Barometers are beautiful," he replied. And I laughed because he meant it, and because it was almost unbearably earnest, and because I needed to laugh to keep from doing something else. He turned his head then. The move was slight, but in the space left over, my heart got loud. I watched his eyes find my mouth, then jump back up like a gentleman who'd opened the wrong door. I could have pulled away. Instead, I reached and brushed a piece of lint from his sweater sleeve. The touch ignited every map I had tried to redraw. He closed his eyes for a second like someone receiving bad news beautifully. "Susie," he said softly. "Don't," I answered, the word worn thin and still trying to be a shield. "Okay," he whispered, and he did not kiss me, and I loved him for that in a way that felt like grief. We sat up. He offered me his hand and I took it. The grip was practical, not poetic, and I held on half a beat too long. 2 nights later, as I closed the register, Dustin set 2 paper cups on the counter. "Tea," he said. "Truce with the day." Took a sip. "Chamomile and honey." "I've been thinking about what you said," he began. "About keys and doors." I pretended to count 20s. I don't want to unlock anything you haven't offered. But I also don't want to pretend the door doesn't exist, because pretending is its own kind of unkind. I looked up. He stood there looking every bit his age and also older and also impossibly young. "Say it," I said, surprised at my own steadiness. "I care for you," he said simply. "Not only as a partner or a mentor or a friend. I don't know the right container. I just know the feeling keeps not fitting into the ones I try. Truth can be a spill. Can also be a stitch. I felt something mend inside me I hadn't known was torn. "I care for you too," I said. "They're the answer on the thin ice. And I don't know what to do with it." He exhaled, relief messy and bright. "We can do nothing for now," he offered. "We can keep being good at hair and better at boundaries. We can let the feeling sit on a chair in the corner and listen to jazz with us. We can," he trailed, searching. "We can keep the door closed and admit that we're standing beside it," I finished. "Exactly." He held out his hand as if sealing a deal. Took it. His thumb swept over my knuckle in a gesture that was nothing and that I felt everywhere. When I finally went home, the sky above the street was a velvet thing. The moon looked like someone had taken a bite out of it and saved the rest for later. I sat on my couch and realized I was trembling, not from fear, but from the body's way of shaking out a truth it has been holding too long.